Hello and welcome to Complexity Limit's Guide to the Mythic Denathrius encounter, written and produced by Crzypck in coordination with Complexity Limit, presented by Herman Miller. Just a quick note before we begin, this guide assumes you know the fight already on Heroic. As such, we will not be discussing or explaining the Heroic mechanics, we will assume you know them, and will exclusively be focused on the Mythic changes and strategy. If you need a refresher on the basic mechanics, please check out our Heroic guide on the channel. Well, here he is. The big boy Donnie himself. You've done pretty well to get this far, and as reward, you now get to progress on a fantastically well-made boss. Enjoy progression on this guy, it's a fun one. We recommend going in with a comp of 2 tanks, 4 healers, and 14 DPS. Phase 1 has a couple minor changes related to the Burden of Sin debuff. First off, everyone in the raid now starts with 6 stacks instead of 5. When you're hit by Cleansing Pain, you'll explode for moderate damage within a 1 yard radius, which prevents the raid from being tightly stacked like you normally do on Heroic. Anyone hit by this small explosion also loses an additional stack of Burden of Sin and therefore spawns an extra Echo of Sin add. In addition to this, any Echo of Sin adds that are not killed within 14 seconds of spawning jump back into the player they came from, reapplying the stack of Burden of Sin. Lastly, there's now 3 Night Hunters with each cast. Strategy wise for phase 1, you want to split the raid into a few pre-assigned groups for burden stacks. Any Death Knights or Shamans you have should never be hit by the Cleansing Pain. The remaining players in your raid should be split into 2 even teams. When you pull the boss, drag him back towards the wall on the right hand side from the entrance. Keep him about 10ish yards away from the wall so people have room to spread for Cleansing Pain. On the first cast, Team 1 will all soak the Cleansing Pain. You will also want to assign 2 pairs of people from Team 1 to stand on top of each other, intentionally being hit by that 1 yard AoE effect. By doing this, 4 people will lose an extra stack and already only be at 4 stacks of burden during the first blood price, which will further reduce the damage the players with 5 or 6 stacks takes. As soon as the Cleansing Pain deals damage, blow up the echoes ASAP. This will be followed by the first Night Hunter cast. We found the best way to deal with Night Hunters was to allow the targeted players to move away from each other for a few seconds, and then plant their feet about 4 seconds before the ability actually deals damage. Everybody in the raid needs to help soak the lines. Make sure you don't get hit by 2 lines or you'll die. That is, unless you're a tank, in which case you should always soak 2 lines. From this point on, you'll mostly play phase 1 like you do on Heroic. For each Cleansing Pain, half the raid is going to soak. You'll want everyone in the raid, except your Death Knights and your Shamans, to get to 2 stacks of burden. After every second Cleansing Pain, you'll get your Ravage, just like on Heroic, move counterclockwise to the next open section of the room. Continue repeating this until the boss hits 70% and you push the intermission. Make sure you use your movement abilities right before you get picked up, especially if you are a Death Knight or a Shaman. You're relying on those movement abilities. A couple of notes. You'll likely want to use a raid cooldown for Cleansing Pain. The adds themselves that spawn actually deal a fair amount of damage on Mythic, so popping that cooldown will help keep the raid stable. Another tip for the stacks, prioritize getting at least 1 Druid in your raid to 0 stacks of Burden of Sin. If you are successful in this, when everyone in the raid gets picked up, the Druid will be able to run full speed to the middle and then pop Stampeding Roar, which will give the entire rest of the raid that nice speed buff. This will give you a couple of extra seconds in the middle to DPS Denathrius while you wait for his cast to end during the intermission. It's a nice little extra bit of damage and definitely worth doing. A couple other notes for phase 1. The Night Hunters soaking is a team effort. You want every single player in your raid to soak the lines. When Ravage comes out, if you have a Warlock, use a gateway to zip over to the next area for the first Ravage. Lastly, phase 1 is actually a bit of a DPS check, so make sure you are nuking Denathrius as hard as you can. The hard enrage for this phase is basically the 3rd Ravage, when Denathrius begins casting at 2 minutes and 46 seconds into the fight. You need to beat this timing. You actually want to try pushing Denathrius to the 70.5% mark that begins the intermission while he's casting something, as he will still complete that cast, and this will give you a couple of extra seconds of just casting on the boss and damaging the boss before the intermission starts. each aspect of this fight has some amount of a DPS check, and these little bits of time, these couple extra seconds here or there of being able to pump damage into the boss really will come into play for you. On to phase 2, which gets quite a few changes. At the beginning of the phase, 4 named ads will spawn around the room on those side platforms that you don't really do much with on Heroic. Lady Sincere is northwest and will shoot red missiles out from herself in every direction every 5 seconds. Being hit by one of these missiles will deal damage to you and silence you for 6 seconds. Lord Evershade is northeast and spawns ads upon himself reaching 66% and 33% health. The ads he spawns will chain cast a nasty raid-wide AoE, but this can be interrupted. After an ad has been successfully interrupted 5 times, it despawns. Baron Duskhollow is southwest and will grip you onto his platform if you deal damage to him from more than 25 yards away. Lastly, Countess Gloomvale is in the southeast and has a smoke bomb effect around her, forcing you to be within melee range to damage her. In addition to this, all 4 ads do a constant ticking damage to anyone within 50 yards, with that damage actually being increased each tick. Lastly, when they die, these ads cause those red swirlies like the Kabbalists do on Heroic. Your goal in phase 2 is twofold. First off, you'll need to kill all 4 of the new named ads and any Kabbalists that spawn throughout the phase. Second, you want to get Denathrius to 40.5% health. This second phase ends from one of 2 triggers, either Denathrius reaching that 40.5% health mark, or 3 minutes and 30 seconds elapsed from the time you've landed, whichever comes first. You'll actually see a timer for this on your DBM. You'll want to maximize your DPS as much as possible to get Denathrius to that 40.5% mark. To do this, you'll want to carefully plan out your movements as a raid, and your DPS splits onto the ads, and utilize Denathrius' racking pain as much as you possibly can. The damage taken effect from racking pain can be applied to the 4 mythic ads, and doing this is absolutely vital. Let's go through what we found was the most effective way to handle going through this phase and killing off all the ads. As soon as you land, have Warlock set up a gateway over to Lord Evershade in the northeast side. Both the tanks and all melee DPS should take this gateway and zip over to Evershade. You'll want to have 2 interrupt rotations going into this for the ads, with 5 people in each. Use a weak aura to display it over the nameplate of the ad, whose turn it is next. Nuke down Evershade over there, but prioritize cleaving the boss and Remornia. You absolutely must kill Evershade within 45 seconds of phase 2 starting, as that's when the first Hand of Destruction is cast. You're going to be using the yoink from that Hand of Destruction to leave the platform, so you'll actually want to use all 45 seconds you have to min-max that damage split between Evershade and Denathrius himself. As far as tanks go, the tank with more mobility should hold Denathrius. Ensure the first Racking Pain hits the Evershade ad. About 10 seconds before the first Hand of Destruction is cast, the tank will need to get off the side platform and onto the main platform towards the northern mirror. Warriors can heroic leap here, demon hunters can jump, monks can use transcendence, things like that. If neither of your tanks has movement ability for this, you'll need a priest to life grip the tank back over. While the melee and tanks are over there fighting Evershade, the ranged DPS should go towards the northwest side and kill Sincere. Just stand near the edge of the main platform and nuke her down. Make sure she dies before the Hands of Destruction as well. Everyone needs to keep an eye on the little red missiles Sincere shoots out. Do not get hit by these. When that first Hand of Destruction is cast, everyone's going to get pulled back to the main platform where the tank has the boss. Run through the northern mirror to port south, then stay there. Immediately after the Hands of Destruction explodes, an impale comes out. If you're not targeted by this impale, punch Duskhollow immediately on the southwest platform. As soon as you hit him, he'll yoink you over to his platform. Your tank should ensure that Duskhollow gets smacked by the Racking Pain from Denathrius. While you're fighting on this platform, you'll get the first massacre, so watch your feet and don't get hit by the red lines. Like on Evershade, the tank will need to jump back to the primary platform near the southern mirror 10 seconds before the Hands of Destruction is cast, and you'll use that Hands of Destruction to pull everyone back to that main platform. Kill Duskhollow before the hand is cast, then everyone takes the southern mirror during the Hand of Destruction to port back to the north. At this point, your first set of Kabbalists will spawn, 2 in the north and 2 in the south. Keep Denathrius at the north and cleave down the boss, Remornia, and the 2 cable guys up there. When the 3rd Hand of Destruction is cast, port from the north, back down south, and kill the 2 cable guys down there. Following that, 4 Kabbalist guys will spawn next, this time on the east and west ends of the platform. Walk from the south end to the west side first and blow those 2 Kabbalists up as quickly as you can. While you're fighting over there, you'll get the 2nd Massacre, so watch your feet. After the Massacre ends is yet another Hand of Destruction. Same deal, use that western mirror to port east, then kill off the 2 Kabbalists over on the eastern side. While you're fighting these, a Warlock should put up a gateway over to the southern platform where Gloomveil is. As soon as the 2 Kabbalists die, everyone takes that gateway to fly over to Gloomveil and nukes her down as quickly as you possibly can. Make sure you're within melee range of her, otherwise the smoke bomb effect will line of sight you. As before, 10 seconds before the next Hand of Destruction after you're on the Gloomveil platform, the tank will need to jump back to the main platform. Kill Gloomveil before this hand is cast, and then use that Hand of Destruction to pull everyone back to the main platform. At this point, you'll be running into the end of that 3-minute and 30-second clock for Phase 2, so make sure you're nuking Denathrius and Remornia as hard as you can. You want to get them to 40.5% health here. At either that 3-minute and 30-second mark that you'll reach here, or the boss hitting 40.5% health, you enter Phase 3. Ideally, you want to have it push from the boss's health, as it'll actually give you a little bit more time to pump damage into the boss before he's casting Indignation. As Phase 3 is a really tight DPS check, every fraction of a percent of damage on the boss here matters. As far as Phase 3 itself goes, it has some major changes and requires significant strategy alterations. First and foremost, 1/2 of your raid needs to pass through a mirror as soon as the phase starts. This will put players into a purple phase. You'll still see the boss and the room will be the same, but it'll have a purple tint. Oh, additionally, you can only interact with players who are also in the purple phase with you. In addition to that, if you run over a player who is in the normal phase that you can only see a shade of, you both die. That's a pretty big problem because it's actually kind of difficult to see the people in the other phase. As such, every movement that happens in this phase needs to be pre-planned, with the players in each of the separate phases closely stacked together. We recommend having about half the raid in the purple mirror phase. We sent all melee, both tanks, and 2 healers. Ensure that you have somebody in the purple phase and in the normal phase that can cast Bloodlust or Time Warp. If necessary, you can have 11 in the mirror phase, but 10 is recommended. Put a marker on one melee player's head, and that is the team lead down there. Everyone should follow that person. The ranged players and remaining healers will stay in the normal phase. Put a marker on one ranged to be the leader up there, with everyone following. Another big change for Phase 3 on Mythic is that the boss will now cast Blood Price. This is cast 20 seconds after Phase 3 begins, then every minute and 12 seconds. Like on Phase 1, this deals heavy amounts of damage to everyone in the raid, and of course will pick you up and throw you back a little. The players in the mirrored phase, in that purple phase, will be thrown forwards instead of thrown backwards. You'll need to watch the raid's positioning so you don't get thrown back into the other group. Shattering Pain has also been slightly changed. The players in the mirror realm in that purple phase will experience the same level of knockback, but actually be pushed towards and potentially through the boss. The distance is the same, but the direction is flipped. The last major mechanical change of Phase 3 is how the Fatal Finesse soak orbs work. The orbs themselves can only be soaked by the opposite phase of the player who had the circle. In other words, if someone in the mirror phase gets a Fatal Finesse, the orb they drop must be soaked by players in the normal realm. We found a fairly straightforward way to handle this. You'll want to set 4 markers on the platform at the cardinal directions in the locations shown in the graphic. The normal realm team will begin at the star marker to the west. The mirror realm team will be in the middle of the room. When the first Fatal Finesse comes out, players in the northern realm will run to the middle of where the X and the star markers are and drop their orbs. The mirror realm players will drop their orbs towards the diamond marker in the north. As soon as the orbs spawn, you'll move the boss towards the star, positioned so the melee can soak whatever orbs are over there while still maintaining DPS. The range team moves over to the diamond to soak any orbs that are there. Both realms should lust here, unless you have 2 or more DPS Death Knights, in which case the Mirror realm will want to wait all the way until after the second blood price to cast Bloodlust. From this point on, you'll rotate through the room in much that same fashion. The next Fatal Finesse, the Mirror players will want to drop the orbs at the triangle to the east, the normal realm players will drop it at the diamond, and the boss should then get moved to the diamond after the orbs spawn. When Shattering Pain happens, make sure you're pre-positioned safely. The Mirror team should always stand near the edge of the platform with the boss between themselves and the middle. Make sure you aren't facing towards wherever the normal realm players are standing. 1 minute after phase 3 begins, the boss will cast both Ravage and Massacre simultaneously. You'll want to bait the Ravage towards the east side of the room, then dodge the lines. Fatal Finesse will spawn here, so the normal realm players will have to drop the orbs toward the northern edge of the room, and the Mirror realm should drop the orbs close to the middle. Once the lines disappear, soak the orbs as quickly as you can. Those soaks are then followed by Shattering Pain, so getting in position quickly is vital, otherwise you're going to get knocked into the opposite group and everyone's going to die. That Shattered Pain is then followed by Blood Price and then another Fatal Finesse. Since you lost the eastern area, your new drop positions for the orb are the center of the room, the star, and the northern open area. Same idea. The Mirror team drops to the next spot the ranged are running to, the ranged drop where they are, and you'll move the boss to where the ranged were to soak the new orbs. Keep rotating, dropping and soaking the orbs, and pre-positioning for the Shattering Pain for about the next minute of the fight. At that point, you'll see the next set of the Ravage and Massacre overlap. Bait the Ravage towards the western side of the room this time. This overlap also has a Shattering Pain happen while the Massacre lines are out, which is extremely dangerous and an easy way for people to die. The normal realm team should move towards the south and let the Shattering Pain push them towards, or even temporarily in, the outer red circle of the room. The melee should get knocked towards the middle of the room. This overlap honestly freaking sucks, and it's going to take you several tries for your raid to figure it out. Fortunately, most classes, especially melee, can immune the knock in some fashion. As some examples, Bubble, Transcend, Death's Advance, and Ice Block all work here, as do several other abilities. Melee especially should use any of these abilities they have on this Shattering Pain overlapping with the Ravage. If you have any melee players in your raid who can't immune or otherwise work through this knockback, Blessing of Protection also works, so you'll want your paladins to cast that on any of those players that need it. From this point on, you only have the little southern end of the room open to work with. For the first Fatal Finesse here, the Mirror team will drop towards the little open area in the southwest bit. The normal realm team will drop near the X marker. Soak the orbs and pump into the boss. After the orbs explode, you'll have a Shattering Pain, then followed by a Blood Price. Same deal you've been doing all fight, just make sure the teams stay clear of each other. When the second Fatal Finesse happens here, the normal realm will drop the orbs where they are. The Mirror realm drops the orbs near the middle of the room. This is your last set of orbs. Soak them and absolutely unload into the boss. From the time that set of orbs explode, you have 12 seconds until the third set of Massacre and Ravage, which is hard and rage and will wipe you nearly instantly. Nuke the boss, and huge congrats on getting your cutting edge for the tier. Thanks for checking out our video. Now that you know how to kill the boss, be sure to like the video and subscribe to our channel for the rest of our guides, kill videos, and a whole lot more.